Beep, 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 beep. Live from Wellston, Georgia, it's another episode of the Wartown Times. Be sure to stay up to date by joining the Wartown Times Facebook group on the Facebook.
Welcome to the Wartown Times Season 2, Episode 1. I am your fictional character, narrator, and author, Daniel Lewis Crumpton. So, as I said in the Road to Wartown Times, we're going to be changing up the format a little bit this year. And in the first few episodes, we're going to be going over a document that the crew of Zen in the Car and the Wartown Times put together called a Friendly Neighborhood Manifesto. And so, in this very brief document is a good summary of where society at large has gone astray from the simplicity of the law. So it's going to basically be educating the every man and every woman like you and me to what the actual nature of law and the role of government is, and showing you exactly how far away we've kind of strayed from that. So, legal disclaimer, no one who worked on the manifesto is a member of the Bar Association or an attorney. Thank the Lord. However, we are Americans, and we can read simple documents like the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and we can kind of look at the language, the common language, and understand that that's for us and it's for you. It's not for specifically people who have a bar association card, but it's for we, the people. So that's what this document's really going to cover. I mean, you are welcome to add your commentary wherever you may find this manifesto, your agreements, your disagreements, your corrections, your input. Any of that is clearly welcome in the marketplace of ideas, which is what America should be. But we do want to go over the manifesto to kind of put some perspective on the proper lens on how to look at what's going on in the city, the fictional city of Wartown, to see where maybe we can make some corrections. So again, you can follow along at zeninthecar.com and go to the Friendly Neighborhood Manifesto. And I do want to give credit where credit is due. This particular manifesto was compiled by the likes of Alan Merritt, Dave DePuma, Sabrina Black, John Galt, Mona Lucia, Dorian Flagg, Olympia Runabout, Nicholas Something, and of course, Daniel Lewis Crumpton. So without wasting too much more time, we want to get right to school, get right into the meat of this manifesto. So we hope you enjoy, and we hope that this edifies you as to your sovereignty as an American to exert your individual rights. Let's go. Warner Robins, the fictional city most referred to as Wartown with the kiddies. With few exceptions, Wartown is for the most part like any city one can find on one's travels through America, cut from the same cloth, one could say, or running on the same blueprints as any other town, fictional or otherwise. You might hit if you were so inclined to throw a dart at a map. Sure, there are some differences in this community, such as it being in a symbiotic relationship with one of the largest military bases in the world, and having the sub-nickname the Black Hole, for reasons we shall expound upon later. And the fact that it is where you and I keep all our stuff. That last one is enough reason, one would think, to put the illusion of social media being reality down for a while to look around the actual reality we can engage with and change for the better. Change is a tricky thing. It usually comes much later than we think it should. Perhaps the reason for this is because social media is not the only illusion we are under, but the idea that change only comes from a singular messiah or a critical mass of the majority to bring it about. This, in our opinion, is exactly why it comes later than we think or know it should. Change requires not a superhero nor everyone to all at once become aware of what the problems are. Rather, it only requires a minority of informed, educated, passionate, and active warriors to bring it about, which kind of puts you, the reader, on the hook with the opportunity to decide who you really are. As we progress through this Friendly Neighborhood Manifesto, specifically designed to bring about positive change in Wartown, you will have to make the decision after the facts are put before you if they are acceptable to you, if you can do something to change them, and most importantly, if you will. The choice will be yours to know these things and continue to go along and get along, or to come into your own power as an individual and free American to take responsibility for the things around you that can in fact be impacted by your existence. There is no ideation here to change the country or the world. There is no aspiration to bring about a nationwide or global revolution back to a republic, where the rule of law is honored and the rights of the individual are protected. May the heavens fall. No, what is being put before you are simply a roadmap of ideas or actions which can be utilized to, at the very least, bring a revolution to Wartown. We want to thank you first for taking the time to assimilate this friendly neighborhood manifesto, and obviously would appreciate you assisting us in spreading it to potential Wartown warriors willing and able to engage with the issues we will present here. But most of all, we want to thank you for the stand you will make for your community, your family, your friends, and yourself, all of which have been impacted by the subject matter to follow. 1. The root of the problem. We all know that the root of any problem is, of course, ignorance. That's a given that we often take for granted when discussing or contemplating the issues of the day. When you decide to dive into the root of an issue or problem, your ultimate basement of blame is going to be ignorance. While there are certain classes within Wartown who no doubt would be content to believe there are not serious problems within the fictional city limits, content to pretend that the international city was a prime example of community and a slice of Americana, yours truly would refer you back to the introductory thoughts of ignorance. For the rest of us residing, working, or serving within or around Wartown, we know very well that there are indeed some very serious problems. We discuss them between fences, we talk about them when we bump into friends or family at the grocery store, we complain about them at the gas pumps and try to cope with their continuation in our city by using them as a punchline to a joke we are all the butt of. These problems we will in detail explore. However, it is best to first be specific of the underlying ignorance that allows the problems to spiral up like brambles of thorns. That being who you are in the scheme of things and what rights you have as the unique individual that you choose to be. Put simply, if you, the reader, are ignorant of the tremendous number of rights you hold, your power is, and will always be, subcontracted to the state and those who make up the systems within it, who we all know do not have your best interest in mind. Pretty speeches and campaign promises be damned. There is a story in the book of 2 Kings which finds us reading about the nation of Israel after a prolonged period where no one actually read the law, yet continued growing government under the assumption that they were indeed following the law. Having neglected the reading and study of the actual law, allowed the perpetuation of widespread ignorance from the working class all the way up to the king himself. Systems were built, positions were filled, coins of silver and gold flowed wheresoever the ignorant willed them, through whim. Yet those systems and appointments were all maintaining their existence through ignorance and what we call now color of law, fictions of law, that ultimately have no actual power over the flesh and blood people and bestow no power to the crown to be enforced. What we see in 2 Kings is an entire nation operating under mass assumption that the systems and functions of government operating around them are doing so correctly. And that being the case, no one even knew they were supposed to stand up to the corruption since they didn't even know it was there. By fate and circumstance, a copy of the law was recovered and reviewed, then brought before the king. And Hilkiah, the high priest, said unto Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. And Shaphan the scribe came to the king, and brought the king word again, and said, Thy servants have gathered the money that was found in the house, and have delivered it into the hand of them that do the work, that have the oversight of the house of the Lord. And Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath delivered me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Achbor the son of Micaiah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Uzziah the servant of the king, saying, Go ye, inquire of the Lord for me, and for the people, and for all Judah concerning the words of this book that is found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that which is written concerning us. While in Israel's case, they seem to have a government official who could admit erroring and endeavor to correct the mistakes, this is probably not a luxury we have here in Wartown. You will be very hard-pressed to find a city or government official that will reverse a vote, arrest, ruling, citation, fine, or other acts of violence when they have done so in a manner which undermines or deprives flesh and blood Americans' civil, natural, common, constitutional liberties. This is apparent because each of them has sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution while protecting it from enemies both foreign and domestic, but apparently don't seem to mind acting against it on a daily basis. And when I say a daily basis, I literally mean a daily basis. How can it be that public servants will swear an oath obligating them to operate within the parameters of no one having their rights violated, but consistently vote, act, and move contrary to the very small document in which they pledged their allegiance. Let us not forget that the Constitution and Bill of Rights is small enough to fit in one's breast pocket, not volumes and volumes of scribbles to be found at law libraries in state houses. The founding documents of this nation were written in such a way that every man and woman would be able to understand and apply them, from the most undereducated farmer to the scholar in university. Yet we do not see the application of the clear language of the text being given any consideration by public officials who we pay to uphold it. The answer is either they've been derelict in their duty to open the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and Declaration of Independence to be read of by themselves, or they have and simply do not care. If the latter, then our first instinct should be to ask why. It is our belief the answer to that question can be found in another place within the text of the Bible, 1 Timothy 6:10. And there you have it. The root of the problems we find within Wartown is a simple riddle to solve. Like ancient Israel, ignorance of the law through assumptions to the contrary. Careful we must be to not fall into the same field of wrath by partaking of these evil deeds. 2. The simplicity of the law. Perhaps you've heard of an individual by the name of Jesus Christ. Regardless of your interpretation or religious, spiritual, or political view of this individual, it's probably safe to say that you, the reader, at least know the overall story that's associated with him. Here you have an individual who, according to the text of the Bible, was completely innocent. He committed no crimes, he committed no blasphemies, he committed no sin. Yet still, this spotless lamb was led to the slaughter by the institution of church and institution of state. How did this occur? Well, the studious reader of the Bible will surely know that it was done through things like kangaroo courts without due process of law, filled with religious bigotry one way or another, not only stripping the Christ of liberty, but also his life. Stripped of flesh and bone and spirit by soldiers who follow the orders without question of the adjudicators appointed by the emperor in an empire, and most certainly not a republic, which just so happens to be what America was envisioned to be, a republic. It is our personal belief that the story of the Christ was very much on the minds of the designers of the Constitution and Bill of Rights when it was being drafted. Seems to us that the Bill of Rights was almost a direct reverse engineering of what went wrong in the accusations, arrest, trial, and murder of Jesus Christ. A kind of way to ensure that this sort of thing, a completely innocent person being brutalized by the church or state, wouldn't happen or shouldn't happen here in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Perhaps the fact that Jesus Christ did not speak to defend himself in the presence of paltry politicians who already had their minds made up, the law be damned, was what inspired our Fifth Amendment to remain silent. Is the fact that he could not face his accusers or be judged by a jury of his peers the reason why our founders wanted to ensure that we, the free, could? Maybe it is true the drafters of our Constitution and Bill of Rights were thinking of the Christ when they gifted us these documents, and in adhering, obeying, and defending them, we are indeed showing a sort of obedience to the Christ. And hey, if that keeps innocent people who haven't hurt anyone else from being kidnapped by the state, thrown in a cage, and essentially state-sponsored indentured servitude, can that really be a bad thing? The law is pretty simple if you keep the allegory of the Christ, regardless of your interpretation of his existence, in mind. The idea for our justice system is supposed to perform the philosophy of that it is better 100 guilty persons should escape than that one innocent person should suffer is a maxim that has been long and generally approved. Benjamin Franklin. And anyone making the claim that America was founded as a Christian nation should agree with, as well as strive for the vision of the good Benjamin Franklin on this topic. The simplicity of the law is that your individual rights end where another individual's rights begin. You cannot deprive them of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and they, or the state, cannot deprive you of such rights either. Now, keep in mind that any right you can connect with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you also retain, so long as in their usage they again don't deprive another of theirs in those spheres, which makes sense in a country where we never cease repeating that we are the land of the free. In a land of freedom, it is only common sense that you kind of do whatever you want to do with your life, so long as you aren't hurting anyone or damaging their property. You can express yourself, your spiritual views or practices, including sacraments and or ceremonies others may consider taboo or unorthodox, such as the indigenous peoples, etc., etc. Basically, understanding the law doesn't require a bar or any other degree from university, seminary, or a badge. Understanding the simplicity of the law is just one of good conscience. While some exhibit little to no conscience, especially within systems of the state, surely conscience is something we all share on a flesh and blood human level. We intrinsically know, on an instinctual level, to be at peace with our fellow man, if it be possible. We can simply feel inside us the chaos when we act in a manner which deliberately, maliciously, and intentionally harm another person. Now, it is true that not everyone makes the majority of their decisions on this conscience. Nevertheless, it is there. The natural law is clearly written upon our hearts, not requiring volumes of statutes, acts, or ordinances. To be of good conscience, though, we believe once again the person of Christ would summarize all law upon "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets, the Gospel of Matthew. To operate in good conscience is, like the simplicity of the law, pretty simple if you understand this philosophy. What Christ, the ultimate judge, according to the text of the Bible, is saying is that if you truly live in service to your higher power in genuine love and treat your fellow man as extensions and emanations of that higher power, it becomes impossible for you to break the law. See? Simple.
Beep, 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 beep. Live from Wellston, Georgia, it's another episode of the Wartown Times. Be sure to stay up to date by joining the Wartown Times Facebook group on the Facebook.